To call this planning commission meeting to order this Wednesday, the January 24th. May I have a roll call, please?
Chairwoman Amanda Jackson Denmark.
Here.
Vice Chairman Charlie Whitmore.
Here.
Commissioner Michael Brock.
Here.
Commissioner Rich Delcor.
Here.
Commissioner Lydia DePaul.
Here.
Commissioner Jim Flynn. Commissioner Jason Stewart.
Notice regarding adjournment. The planning commission will not hear new items after 9:30 p.m. unless authorized by majority vote of the commission members present. Items which have not been heard before 9:30 may be continued to the next regular meeting or a special meeting date as determined by the commission members. We're going to move on to adoption of the agenda. Before I have a motion on that, I have two things that I need to change on the agenda. One, there is a technical error where it says number six, adoption of minutes should really say election of officers. And then also I would like to move agenda item number 2 to the first item that we see tonight.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay. May I have an adoption of the minutes from December the 20th? So moved.
I can't.
So moved. Okay. Do you have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we have a public hearing. Nope, sorry. We have election of officers. And Carrie's going to put that up on the. Okay.
I forgot that was before all of them.
Okay.
Good evening, commissioners. Tonight we have, because it has been a year, we have nominations of officers. The process to nominate is above you on the screen or in front of you on the screen if you're looking straight ahead. The two chairs are both electable offices, and then there is a third, which is the Development Review Committee at-large member. So there are the chair, vice chair, and one at-large member sit on the Development Review Committee. Just as a reminder, because the chair and vice chair do, someone else would be in that third position. That third position provides feedback. So emails are sent out when we receive an application, and those emails are 15 to 20 business days in advance of when we expect those comments back to us. We ask that you email us the comments, whoever's name is in that email, and basically it is the conceptual or the preliminary application for those items. It gives you a chance to look ahead, but it also requires of you that you look ahead. So you'll be getting eyes on projects twice instead of just the ones that you do in front of this commission here. If at all possible, we also ask that you attend the Wednesday this is Planning Commission, Wednesday at 1 p.m. meetings when you're available, but that is not a required attendance so much as a requested attendance. We require that you send us feedback on those applications ahead of time. So that's what the DRC position is. Again, there is no second required, so if you have somebody that you'd like to nominate, you do not have to second it, but you are allowed to if you want to show endorsement of that person. And it's the same as any other process, so.
Madam Chair, I'd like to nominate Amanda Denmark as chair again, because you're not going to get away from us. I'd like to nominate Mr. Charlie Whitmore as vice chair.
Do we need to vote on? Can we do one at a time?
We need to vote on the first. All in favor of Amanda Denmark, myself being chair? Aye. All in favor of Charlie Whitmore being vice chair?
Aye.
Any nominations for DRC? I'd like to nominate Rich Delcor for DRC.
And we did speak to Rich today. He would be happy to accept the nomination if that exists. So just.
Yes, he's
I'm sorry. We talked to Jim.
Yes, here's Rich.
I'm sorry, Rich. In my head, it didn't work.
It's the hair. All in favor of Rich being DRC member? Aye. Okay. Good. Next. Thank you, everybody. Okay, now do we Have public comment. Where's the slide?
We don't have any public comments for items not on the agenda.
Okay, and we don't have any old business, so we are going to go to new business, which this is a public hearing. This is the first call for public comment.
We do
I
have
know, but I
public
was
comments.
trying to read,
Public hearing.
Okay.
I was trying to go through my roll. Go through the,
You're doing it right.
this is a public hearing. This is the first call for public comment on item number 1. Carried.
Keyword.
Okay,
There's two different places, Jody.
sorry.
Tony, we wouldn't have forgot you.
Thank you.
I'm Joan Hayward, and I live at 95 Good evening, Madam Chair. Congratulations
Thank
on your
Reappointment.
re-election, and Mr. Wetmore.
I think this,
You know that I have an interest in the historic district, and it's my passion. And I'm here to work with you for our common goal. With the historic district, which really is a source of community for the entire Bluffton, as well as a source of comment. And when I went on the website to look for the UDA, I noticed that the vision statement for Bluffton is, Bluffton, the heart of the Low Country, a town that appreciates the past, focuses on today, and is planning together for a better future. So that's why I'm here. I would like to plan together with you all. So in reading the presentation that was made to the HPC, that's where my comments are coming from. And I have a lot of comments, but I'm just going to say a few. On page 3, item 3.1a, says that new construction, and this is just a little technical thing. I think you should add, it says new construction and alterations should be consistent with the standards, criteria, and guidelines developed by the district. You should say standards developed by the town of Bluffton to differentiate from the Department of Interior. It's implied, but sometimes you need to say things. However, and I have a thank you for these new additions, for adding the info about foundations for relocating structures. I guess it's better late than never, because one of our contributing structures is being ruined. However, I appreciate that. And regarding the relocating the structure, I guess I'm going to say that we really need to think about the owner of these structures that need to be relocated or demolished for that purpose or rehabilitated, because everybody's not in the same financial status, and everybody can't run out to get an engineer's report for $2,000, which is required in some cases. And we need to be a little more understanding and transparent. And then in this section, as well as in the section on demolition, I think, you talk about extraordinary. That is so vague and leaves so much room for whatever you want to call it. I think we need to define extraordinary, or at least give several examples of extraordinary. And we can all think of examples. I can. And then when it comes to reassembly, I have a real issue with reassembly. Oh, Lord, I've gone 3 minutes?
Yeah.
However,
Can you
reassembly is
wrap
not
that up
mentioned in the Department of Interior standards. It's unique to different historic districts, and I know it is. But I think that reassembly could be considered reconstruction. Reconstruction is new construction. It's not old construction. And the Department of Interior, by omitting it, is really implying that it's new construction, as far as I see.
Thank you. Are you almost?
And let me just
One
say,
last
the
thing.
mission statement, I'm not, I'll talk to
I
some of
know,
you
well, we
individually.
need to,
The mission statement says we take care of our citizens, the town, and each other by continuously making our community and organization better. And I think we need to always consider our vision and mission statement. I thank you.
Ms. Joni, Ms. Joni,
yes,
can you make sure you email that to staff so that they can disseminate it to us, because we can, even after we approve it tonight, we can disseminate and send recommendations with it to council based on what we see there.
So,
Do you want me to send it to?
Send it to Carrie.
Jody, I've got your email. You'll get an email from me tonight.
thank you.
Thank you, Joni.
You love.
The second call for public comment and third and final call for public comment. Okay, the public hearing's closed, and then Charlotte.
Thank you. These are amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance. Some of them will look familiar to you, including amendments to our Certificate of Appropriateness section, 5.15. This was reviewed by the Planning Commission last year. It went on to Town Council for a first reading and was approved. At the public hearing, some questions came up, and so the discussion was perhaps it should be removed from the agenda and some things reconsidered. After discussion, we left the amendments as proposed alone. What is proposed with the Certificate of Appropriateness? You see here, I've identified 7 things. I'm not going to read it word for word. This is basically some procedural items, including a process for relocation of buildings, whether or not they're contributing to the district or not. We've done some minor amendments to the formatting section. We're distinguishing sheds from garden structures. We're making some front build-to line changes within the neighborhood core and neighborhood center district. One thing that did come up that we've reviewed since the town council meeting is in the characteristics for the medium house type that we are proposing is that right now the text that we've submitted to the commission says larger than a cottage, smaller than a village house. Well, the medium house type is really essentially a village house, but it's not as tall. So we're suggesting a minor amendment to the language. And so you see that there. Parking, this is something that you reviewed last year. This relates to not allowing compact parking spaces to be considered for required parking. For smaller developments, our recommendation is that where there are 25 or more parking spaces required, that it be only 25%. So it goes from 25% to 10% of the total. We are also recommending that golf cart spaces not be counted towards required parking. As we've grown downtown and we have had more visitors to the historic district, we certainly have a need for vehicular parking, and golf carts can park in regular parking spaces. So that's a change there. One of the things that we have proposed since the Planning Commission reviewed the amendments was that our dimensional requirements for angle parking allow vehicles to overhang slightly into the drive aisles. So we are recommending some dimensional changes there. It's very slight. Our watershed department has asked for some amendments to the stormwater section relating to making a distinction between development and redevelopment, and also for there to be consistency with the Beaufort County stormwater requirements. These are very minor, and the final addition is for storefront manufacturing to allow that to be in the neighborhood general district as a conditional use. And this is a use that may have some assembly, some manufacturing, but it's at scale that's so small that you would not be able to discern that from the outside. So things like, for example, making leather goods, some coffee grinding, something of that effect. So that's, again, a new proposal. And if you'd like, I can go through any of the amendments. I can bring those up if you have any questions at all. The review criteria for text amendments, there are 5. The proposed amendments are consistent with those criteria. And the actions that you can take tonight are either to approve as submitted, approve with amendments, or to deny. And if you take action tonight on this item, it will move forward to town council in March, and there will be a public hearing in April. Are there any questions?
Done a good job.
Thank
We
you.
dug into this deep last year, Bluffton.
We did.
Questions, comments? Recommendation? It's a recommendation, correct? A recommendation?
Sorry, the motion? Yeah, here's a motion to approve without any amendments at all, and with the one amendment that we had suggested to the Village House. I have that for you as well.
Did you want to discuss the door width that you were talking about?
Oh, I guess we need to do, that's not, you pick that comment that you just have right there with the carriage house, or, no, not that.
So we did have discussion about the width of garage doors. So presently, the width right now is 12 feet. So a garage, we consider it the carriage house building type. The current
No, I
language.
guess what I'm confused about is your revision, what's on the screen right now? Carriage house characteristics from larger than why does it say carriage house characteristics?
So this is where it falls under.
Should say medium house, right?
This is where I'm getting confused. Like, this is what we kind of
Excuse
talked
me.
about yesterday.
You're correct. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You are correct. That's,
I was a little confused, because I was like, we did go over some of it. Okay, so, yes, that needs to stay. And then, like, sorry, I was getting up on that versus the other.
thank you. Yes.
The other things that we talked about, previously were the garage door widths. Is that something to be included at this time? From, 12 max to 10-foot maximum?
You might want
Explain it.
to, yeah.
I'll explain it. So currently, or what they were suggesting was to say that you could have 12-foot doors for garage doors. You can have two of them, which in theory is 24 feet, which means you need extra footage to make your garage, which means you have a really large garage footprint, which really is not, with what we're allowed, it's not easy to do that. But if we're trying to keep the scale down on things, then we really shouldn't have 12-foot garage doors. A typical door would be 9 foot by 8 foot, and obviously you can get things shorter, but we were trying to come up with a compromise. What if somebody did have an oversized vehicle and wanted to have an opportunity to be able to have something a little larger? I think 12 is just, in my opinion, too large, especially thinking about scale and massing of the overall building and the character that we're going for. So I was suggesting that we take it to 10 foot.
And this
For the
applies to
width.
carriage house.
This applies to your garage overhead door,
Well, the only,
period.
correct me if I'm wrong, but the only place width is mentioned is with the carriage house. It's not mentioned with anything else.
Well, that's what, it would be part of, even if you had it connected to a house, it's still in that realm. So that's,
Do you need for me to bring up the text?
And so the ordinance reads now, no more than 2 single-car garages. And I don't know if it was a modification or if that's what it is, but yeah, right here, not exceeding 12 feet.
yeah.
It's
That's
right
what
here.
it reads now,
And can we, I'm just want to reiterate this for everybody, is one larger door acceptable, or do you have to have two? So,
One larger door, but it cannot exceed 12 feet. So if you only want one door, you can have one door, but it can't be any more than 12, which would allow for like a boat to be stored in there or,
I guess I'm just worried if we say that we're letting, anybody could put 24 feet of garage doors on
No,
there.
they cannot.
Well,
I mean-
it's two separate ones, but the massing of the building would be large.
potentially, but you can still have an 800 square foot footprint of your carriage house, no matter if it's doors, windows, or not a blank wall, but a blank wall with a wall with no entries.
Commissioner Denmark, the way I read this though, garages are limited to 2 vehicular openings not exceeding 12-foot width. How do you interpret you can only have one 12-foot door and not 2 doors?
They are limited, that you could have two 12-foot doors, but if you want only one door, it could not be a 24-foot door. You could have one 12-foot door, two 12-foot doors, two 12-foot doors and a 6-foot door, two 10-foot doors.
I'm just wondering, I know I'm probably getting too particular, but I'm just gonna, outside of historic district, okay, just roll with me for a minute. Some of these other neighborhoods that might have one door that's like 18 feet for 2 cars, can you do that currently? No, because it's 12 feet, but what?
This is only within the historic district, this standard.
So, no matter what, I just wanna make sure we're protected, that no one can ever have like, I'm just worried that the massing's gonna get really large. That's my concern, but that's just me.
Well, do you want to recommend a change to it?
Well, I mean, I'm one person, so that's why I'd like feedback if anybody else shares the concern or not, because if you don't share the concern.
What's the standard door outside of the
Nine, well, just in general,
Yeah.
9 foot wide by 8 foot tall.
So what's wrong with 10?
Well, that's what I was suggesting, but
Okay.
if currently it says 12, what I'm suggesting is 10, so that's.
As a full disclosure, as a resident of Old Town Bluffton who has an application that's coming before a HPC in February concerning a carriage house, I concur with what you're saying. I think 12 feet, in thinking of the design of my carriage house, if I had 12-foot doors on that, I would have, the mass and scaling would look different, although Katie would let me bring it.
I'm not talking to my phone, but the one thing that I can, if you would like to recommend approval with 10 feet instead of 12 feet, that is up to you all on your determination. This section is only applicable to the historic zoning districts, okay? So anything outside, they can have a 24-foot wide door. It doesn't, I mean, it matters. It doesn't matter because of this requirement.
Just right here. That's
The
thing I'm
limiting
concerned.
factor on the width of your garage is going to be your square footage. Where you have two 12-foot doors and a 6-foot door, plus 12 inches on either side to make, 12 door, 12 door, 12 door, 12, right? You've got 66 feet. That means that the depth of your garage is only gonna be, and these are rough numbers, I know you can maybe do it with a little less than that, but your depth of your garage, if you've got that expanse on the front, is going to be 12 feet. 12 times 66 is gonna meet your maximum, which a car does not fit in. And so in order to have those garage doors, we would look at that and we'd say, hey, this is not proportionate, and we'd be able to maybe catch it under a different section. If they have 2 doors with their 12 feet each, it is going to be a custom door, I believe, because they are 10 by 9, 10 by 8 foot doors. So, it may, I think that a majority of them are going to be non-custom 10-foot wide openings, but if we put the 10-foot requirement on there and there is a custom door that exceeds it by an inch or 2, you may be restricting something out that allows for somebody's boat to not sit in their front yard or
That's what I
rear
wanted.
yard instead. So
If it was being too restrictive and like,
it
what
is
would a case
up
like
to
this?
you all, but I think that was the intent behind it, is that 12 feet would be wide enough for a car and a golf cart to kind of slide in next to each other if they have a 1-car garage, essentially, where a 10-foot door would not be wide enough, even if the bay or the space behind the door may be wide enough for the car and the golf cart, you couldn't wedge past the car to get out of a 10-foot door if that was the case. So it is up to you all. They are reviewed on other criteria besides just the width of the garage door. So my personal professional opinion would be to leave it at 12.
Because it's really not
Because,
anything they could actually build anyway, if
Can I
they were to
chime
line
in?
it up.
but also,
So I just think the math on that is maybe a little bit off, because if you have, even if you give yourself 18 inches on each side of the garage doors, you can still have we have an 800 square foot footprint. So you could still have over a 26 foot, 27 foot deep garage in theory, if we do that. I agree that two 12-foot doors next to each other is unattractive and unappealing, but I don't know that we should restrict people from being able to have a single car boat garage or that would use one. I think one 12-foot door could still have the massing of a charming structure where two 12-foot doors don't.
I think that's fine.
Two.
Next to each other, yeah. So I think if there's other language that gives the HPC the ability to regulate based on the scale and massing, not just saying that you're allowed to have 12 feet doors and therefore you can do it no matter what the building looks like. Like if they have some teeth there, then I would probably keep it, but if somebody can come before us or before HPC with two 12-foot doors next to each other, then I think that's, not ideal.
That's something is there a way to word it in that way? So that,
Just because the HPC.
the video says it doesn't make it right, so.
What are you thinking? You're thinking, if they do one door, it can be up to 12 feet, but if
Yeah.
it's more than one door, they cannot be more than 10 feet. So we could word it that way.
Is that too restricted?
Oh, it's defined.
Keep going as far as it's even another scenario.
I think that is probably an acceptable recommendation. Ultimately, it's up to town council to adopt or not. So, I mean, it could be that that's how you propose it and,
See what they say.
I'll change it. Yeah.
and know in your hearts that if that is the one thing that doesn't get the same opinion that you have tonight,
Yeah.
it may not be the worst thing in the world, or it might be,
No.
it might be okay because you guys are a little up in the air.
It's like after you are in the business and doing things, you see things and just want to protect other people.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take a stab at it if you want. I move to approve the amendments to the Town of Bluffton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 23, UDO, as submitted by town staff with the following two amendments. One, a revision to the medium house type to change the characteristic from larger than a cottage and smaller than a village house to larger than a cottage. And two, if you can go back to the other page, I can probably, revise, what section is that? Just so we've got it. Under definition F of carriage house, revise it to read, garages are limited to in garages with one door, a maximum width of 12 feet is allowed. In garages with two doors, a maximum of 10-foot width is allowed per door. For vehicles.
You said no more than 10 feet for one door?
12 feet for one door.
Width, yeah. We're gonna have to find, one vehicular door, correct? Because of the
Vehicular openings.
Because of the whole, golf cart, 6-footer.
Okay, so a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we are now on our revised item 2, Carr Village Certificate of Appropriateness, HCOD. This project consists of a 20,000 square foot of clubhouse space and 5 buildings divided into garage condominium units totaling approximately 80,000 square feet and associated infrastructure. Katie, please.
Good evening, Commissioners, again. So, as Madam Chair just read, this is a request for a certificate of appropriateness for the clubhouse space and 5 buildings, which It is a total of 5 buildings, including the clubhouse, 5 buildings, divided into garage condominium units of approximately 80,000 square feet in the Village at Verdier PUD. The Village at Verdier PUD, which is sometimes referred to, we've got Seagrass Station out there now, is really the name of that development, runs off of the architectural standards from the Unified Development Ordinance. And so that is detailed in your staff report, how we got there. However, the Highway Corridor Overlay District is regulated by the Unified Development Ordinance for that. For our slideshow tonight, I have included the elevations in here. Again, the staff report and packet, which is found online and was distributed to you all earlier, the end of last week. And for anybody who's watching online, it is available in the Agenda Center, which is located on the townofbluffton.se.gov website. It is in more detail. So because of the number of buildings, the number of details that are included in here, I do have the architectural package pulled up, but for time, I have the site plan here. So you can see that this is building AB here. This is Highway 170 at the front of your, or the top of your screen, I'm sorry. Oh, I could make this bigger. It would make life a little easier. There we go. So this is Highway 170, and this is the entrance that is proposed. Hagler Boulevard, I believe, is the name of this road that is back here, which will be tied in with a gate access only. Again, this is something you have reviewed as a development plan, so what we are looking for is the landscape lighting and architecture, which is subject to the certificate of appropriateness. So this is building AB. This blue spot is the fountain. We've got building C and building D. This one over here is building E, and then this is the clubhouse building. So building AB, which is again at the front, opposite the clubhouse. This is going to be your composite front elevation and rear elevation. And then I have broken it out as the applicant here for the A half and B half of building AB. So this is the center line is approximately here, which this is the elevator on the floor plans that you all had. And this is the B half elevations of building AB. So again, this is that center line, which you're seeing a bit of the A side here, just so that you're tracking where we are. And then this is the roof plan for building AB. Building C, I've included all of the elevations on one sheet for you. Building D, which is very similar to C, but I believe it's fairly mirrored. And then this is the roof for both of those. Building E, which is the one that sits behind the clubhouse. This is the roof for that and the elevations for it. And then this is the roof plan for the clubhouse, as well as the elevations for the clubhouse here. So again, this is the front elevation, so this will be what faces towards 170 and internal to the development. This side would face building E here. They've provided some renderings. These were on the cover sheet of their architectural drawings. These renderings are not quite the same as the elevations, but I did include them for you because it does show some of those depth elements. So for example, there's another row of windows that runs along the bottom here that are not showing up on your renderings, but they are on the elevation sheets, as well as some of the trim detailing that goes along with the windows there. So there were previous iterations that had some of those, but this shows the shadow lines that you can see on the floor plans, but it's a little hard to distinguish whether this piece here sits 2 inches proud of the rest of the wall, or if it sits 3 feet, or if it sits 20 feet. So I did include this so you had a little bit better image of that for you, as well as this is just an image standing between the, it should be the clubhouse and building E on your right, clubhouse on your left with the people in the red shirts. And then this is the landscape plan. So again, this kind of has the floor plans that I was talking about, where you can see where those buildings step back. So this is that center portion of building AB that steps back, as well as the clubhouse. There you go. It focuses for me. Where those pieces step out here. So you can see those on the floor plans, which are in your packet, but on this this screen, it's a little hard to see those things, so I've excluded them from the PowerPoint. I'd be happy to navigate to that architectural set if you need me to go there or we need to look at any additional details. This is the landscape plan. So again, Highway 170 is at the top of your screen. This is the connector to Hagler. Is it Hager? It's Hager, and I've been calling it Hagler since the beginning of this project. Yep, Hager Boulevard, I'm sorry. That runs through the development with gate access only for emergency vehicles. And at this end, I believe it's for the, condominium owners, club members, as well as emergency vehicles. So again, A, B, C, D, E, clubhouse, fountain, landscape plan, existing pond. And then I have on the side put a little key as I work my way around the site because again, on such a large site, it is challenging to see the details of all of those on one screen. So I'm happy to go back to any of these that you'd wish, but you see we move across the front of the site. Here's again, fountain. It's a blue spot, so it's easy to track, as well as the corner of that existing stormwater detention. And then this goes to the back, so you can still see the stormwater detention off-site here. This is the center of the site. Blue fountain didn't turn blue in this one because it's technically not on this page. And then this is building E here. I've included the plant schedule. Again, it's a lot of words on a screen, but should we need it, it is available for you. And then this is all of the gates and fences. So you've got the gates internal to the site, as well as the privacy fence for the edges of the site and the aluminum fence, which is to go around the side of the property. The dumpster enclosure is here on the top, and then the fountain information is here on the bottom. There's a flagpole on the right. And then this is the lighting plan. Lighting plans on PowerPoints are challenging. So they are, again, located in your packet, but this is the wide angle view of it, as well as the details that are found on that, including your maximums, minimums, and averages for those numbers that are incredibly hard to see on a PowerPoint slide, but this is the summary of those calculations, as well as the details for those light poles and lights. For a certificate of appropriateness highway corridor, the review criteria are found in section 317.3 of our Unified Development Ordinance, and these are those criteria. This is located within the Village of Verdier PUD in the, I can't work my way through, but it is listed out, the whole list of them in the development agreements. Essentially, all of it again falls to the UDO for the design criteria. And the development plan is the only other plan that is applicable to that, which has some design criteria or some design aspects in it. And it has been to the Development Review Committee. They were making a couple minor changes. I did look at it. While it has not been formally sent back to them with the town comments, it appears as though they have addressed the comments that were relating to the landscaping around the pond and the a couple other items that they had that were a building corner encroaching into the 50-foot buffer. So those items have been addressed on the set of plans that was submitted for the certificate of appropriateness. Sorry about that. The Planning Commission can approve the application as submitted by the applicant, approve the application with conditions, deny the application as submitted by the applicant. And with the following conditions, staff finds that it does meet those criteria and recommends approval with conditions. Madam Chairman, if you don't mind, I'm gonna run through the items on here before you ask questions / open it up to the applicant for their discussion, just so that I can
Some of them are,
cover them. There's a lot of, or not a lot, there's several that are administrative / administrative for the most part / Scribner-ish items. So the first one is to increase the height of several of the bushes that are being planted. The UDO requires the shrub height for plantings to be 36 inches. They're just not quite at that. So the spots on the landscape plan will appear the same. The planting schedule will just need to be updated. The next items are the service yard information regarding the roof-mounted equipment on building AB. During discussions between the conceptual submittal and now, they were talking about not having anything on the roof. And then there's a image of something that is on the roof for this. I called the architect and Kevin and I discussed it. He said there was not supposed to be something there. He can speak to that a little more clearly than I can, but from the sounds of it, that item will just be removed from the roof and was not intended to be there. The parapet on the left side elevation of building E is the same, where it has, at one iteration, it was one height, and it is reflected on one half that it has been moved up, but not the other half of the building, so it just needs to be raised there. And then the wall-mounted mechanicals, we had discussed removing those because they had been previously shown on the front elevation, 170 elevation, and they were intended to be moved to the interior side. On one of the elevations, it's showing up with the unit mounted on the, it's not a column, but it's shown on the elevation in one location, but needs to be shown in all locations where they will be to scale and have that reflected. So it's just not being reflected on some of the drawings, so it needs to be updated. The third item is additional information regarding the wall-mounted lights on each of the buildings. There's a 0 along the entire front of the property, but it appears that there are about 9 lights or so along the front elevation, especially of AB here, where this all is at light plan. Sorry, close your eyes. So this is building AB. This elevation here, all of these lights here have something, but they're showing 0 on the illumination plans, so there's not information about those, nor a spec for those lights to be incorporated in, while we understand that they sometimes cannot make it into the photometric table, information showing that they are full cutoffs and they are not going to be spotlights sticking out straight of the building, may be adequate to meet that requirement. Which is doubtful for the record, but unless we say it. The pole height is shown at 25 feet for the Audubon and double large Audubon lights, which are the lights that are in the parking lot. They need to be reduced no taller than 20 feet, which is a requirement of our ordinance. And then a determination on the appropriateness of the levels of illumination. They're requesting a deviation from that with their illumination tables. They are below on all counts, their illumination levels, so that does bode well as long as they aren't spotlights, which I assume they're not, for those lights, since that will raise the illumination levels just a bit. But they are under on all of those. So the item that we apply it to it would be commercial parking lot, because that is essentially what it's a commercial space, it is a parking lot space. And if it is a residential neighborhood, which it is not, but they are condominiumized units, they're over by about 6.0 on all counts as well. So the best place to, or the best category to put it into would be that commercial parking lot area. It is over on that, but they're requesting the deviation from that to allow it to be lower than that, which is up to you all on that determination. But since it will not be used as the same concept as a Publix or a Walgreens or something like that, a deviation may be warranted if you find that it is reasonable. The next one is just the color board and materials for building C, D, E, and the clubhouse. There was a color board provided, but it was just labeled that it was for the elevations and AB. So making sure that that is applicable to all of them so that we know what is to be expected. The next one is that Cope and Blue is a color value of about 65.3%, I believe is the specific number. I've listed it in your staff report though as I think 65. If it's a primary color in the highway corridor as a part of the building facade, it is to be no more than 50% color value. So that just needs to be updated to be a color that is less than that 50%, or a tan, brown, oxblood, the list of permitted colors. So it could go either way on that. All comments for the final DRC for the final development plan need to be addressed, which is administrative, and you all see that fairly often. The POA, I actually spoke with the Property Owners Association, and they did clarify that that was the case. There was just a line in there that said, for your architectural status, please click this link. I didn't have access to that link, so I wanted to make sure that they had not just reviewed the landscaping for some reason. They said that they are good to go on all counts. So number 9 should be a non-issue. And then number 10 is just to update the following notes to add a note that it does need to be reviewed by the town of Bluffton as well. They are generic statements that say things like, hey, our numbers might be a little off in the field, but because they are to do with the landscaping specifically, those notes cannot just be field modified by the contractor, and they do need to be reviewed by the town of Bluffton should they make changes to those plans, the layout, the design of the fountain, or the number or species of plantings. So those are all the items I have. Do you have any questions for me before you open up the floor to the applicant? I can come back too.
I'll go ahead and open to the applicant if everybody's good. Would the applicant like to speak?
Do you want me to run the maps or do you want to run the maps?
When you try to run them.
All right.
Stay close by. Thank you very much, Katie. Dan Kiefer with Whitmer Jones Kiefer, and Kevin's going to be up here as well.
Kevin Grenier from KRA Architecture.
First thing, we wanted to thank everybody, Katie especially, for the process. This was, I think we were the first one to go through the conceptual review process for corridor review. So we submitted conceptual plans and had quite extensive back and forth to get to where we're at. So I think it's helped so that we're here more with a finalized version of the plan. So thank you everybody for that. I know it was a little more work for everybody, but we appreciate that. We were going to just go through the list. I'll go through the landscape and site items, and then Kevin will go through the architecture items. Then we'll be available to answer any questions. Most of them are pretty straightforward. Number one, with the landscape, there's some of those plants are interior. The ones that are in the buffer, the yellow, anise, and the viburnums are the ones that are the 36-inch requirement, but we'll confirm that with Katie, the ones that are internal.
Excuse me, question, so.
Okay.
I didn't understand. She was saying we have to increase it, you're saying those are different plants?
So several of the plants, like for example, the boxwood, are only used around the fountain. So those would be areas, so those would be lower, like 12, 18 inches, I think we had. If they need to be bigger, we'll certainly meet the requirement. I think it's just a couple of the ones that are in the actual buffer area, the ones that need to meet the requirement. But I see Katie shaking her head, and we'll certainly meet the requirement that we need to. If that can be a staff level coordination item, that would be ideal.
That would be great.
Okay. I'm gonna skip to the lights. So the Palmetto Electric lights, they're 25-foot poles, but they put 5 foot in the ground. So on the plan it says 25 foot, but it says 20-foot mounting height. So they put 5 foot in the ground. So they'll be 20-foot height.
We'll put 5.1 on the ground just to be safe.
I'm bringing the technician.
Write it on the plan, make sure that it's shown that
Yeah, it's
out.
It's on the plan, on the updated plan, they said that. As far as the lighting, the photometrics, we had two versions of the lighting plan. The first version we submitted, I think in December, and we work with Palmetto Electric, and the lights are all leased. And basically what they do is we locate the lights and work with them as far as strategy on where we need the lights. And they run the photometrics for basically where the lights are located. So they ran their calculations around the building footprints and came back with the photometrics that meet the town requirements. And they're used to the requirements because they have a sheet that has to be signed off by the town or the county. So they want to know the rules up front more than anybody, so they're designing it appropriately. We went back to them with the comment of they had to show the zeros all the way to the property line. So when they reran their numbers, they calculated the entire site. So, for example, behind the buildings and over top of the buildings, all the way to the property line were zeros. So in their lighting intensity, they had less areas, basically the buffers of the property at 0. So the average was significantly diminished. So I think what we can do is have them, and maybe this is for future reference too, we can have them do an overall plan, like an exhibit that shows 0 around the site, just for a reference only. And then maybe we can have them run a metric of the use zone where the zeros, where the lighting stops, to show that we're meeting the requirements. And obviously, what was submitted, we're fine if you guys accept that as submitted, that's great. But I just wanted to explain that, how that works. So it'd be like if you took the Walmart parking lot, for example, and extended it all the way back to within the buffers on 278 and calculated that zero, the number gets significantly diminished. Did I explain that for everybody?
And you said it encompasses the roof plan of the buildings too, right? So that's an additional diminish
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
calculation.
I'm not sure exactly what they use for that, but the zeros and the buffer are the big things, big difference between the two plans.
Question, Katie, you said something about lighting was different than what was required. I think you were even saying that it was low, wasn't it lower? So how does that apply to what you're just talking about?
So
Rows reduce the overall.
yes.
I understand, so they're below our requirements for commercial.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just stepping a little closer so that Big Brother hears me. They're lower than what it is. This is kind of similar to, I think the best one I can compare it to is, I think it was last month that we had the restaurant out at New Riverside where the triangle-shaped parcel, because that back third of the parcel is not developed with anything, it was all buffer and green. The zeros out there bring the whole number down. I mean, you guys are familiar with the idea of an average. And when you get that average, because you've put it over the whole site, which the whole site isn't lighted, because part of it is, in this case, most of it is, but the whole site, when it becomes lighted, it brings that number down because it has to take into consideration 75 zeros, which pull the whole number down. It does not pull the maximum number down because somewhere on that site, the maximum number is still being met, and it does not pull the minimum down because the minimum is going to be zero on there somewhere. But that average number, it affects that. It pulls it to one. It's tug of war, and the zeros are winning.
Way to say it.
Especially when you have 50-foot buffers around the whole property.
I think 8, 9, and 10, they're sort of more staff level items that we've already discussed. So I'll let Kevin go on the architecture.
Can I borrow that?
Yep.
So as Katie mentioned in her presentation, we had the discussion about, some of the HVAC units being shown on the wrong face, on the wrong side, on some buildings, and they were correct on the other. So she was just confused, which is why she called me. So we have since made sure that every single unit is behind the buildings, not on the 170 side. So we've already addressed that comment.
But you'll work with staff on that, yes.
Correct.
And the roof.
Well, I have an AC question on that. The individual units, Kevin, if I read it correct, are 1,500 square feet over 3 floors, 3 floors of 500 square feet.
Correct.
Are you putting mini splits in there?
Yes.
Okay, and did I read the plans correct? Basically, the condenser unit for the mini split is 90 degrees to the building in between where the garage doors are?
It's on the pilasters, they're on the interior face. They're not on the face that would face you, for lack of a better terminology.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to get a feel for
I actually can show
location.
you. I can actually show you an updated plan if you'd like to see it.
Hard, the public can't see that.
Yeah, let's just see if can you point it out, whatever Katie's pulling on.
You didn't pay your internet bill.
Or not.
So each unit has 3 mini splits?
No, it would have one.
1 mini split for 3?
Per unit, per bay.
Each unit, 3 floors has 1 mini split.
They could do a multi-headed mini split, so they could have 4 or 5 heads in there. My concern was more on within our preview is the location of the outdoor units, making sure that there were, I think I saw them on this.
The clubhouse, we've shown them as, since the clubhouse is still up in the air, for the inside, we've showed service yards on that, just assuming we were gonna have restaurant loads and units that we can't cover with mini splits. We definitely didn't put anything on the roof for cost issues, less weight,
You can, and I know this is a conversation for another day, but you can get some of the new side discharge stuff that is about the same size as a mini split if you run into space considerations outside on the commercial.
Okay. You want to get your engineer's license?
I do well enough doing what I do. Thanks.
Well, since we're just talking about service charge too, there was one shown on a side elevation, but
Those are meter locations.
no, there's one on,
Generator, maybe?
I don't know, it wasn't on the plan.
Yes.
But anyway, go back to, yeah.
You can see right here.
Yeah, that's the inside unit. I don't care about that. It's down below, right?
No, they're mounted high.
The outdoor units?
Yeah.
What are the?
These are garage doors. I'm not going to put them where a car can.
Well, and that's what, that was one of the things I was wondering is, you know,
They're going to be on brackets on the wall, probably at your face height.
Those are the outside units?
they're gonna be bigger than that, but that's, as long as they're on the
Right.
side of the building, then it doesn't matter,
Correct.
you know.
I mean, they project 4 feet out, so sometimes, in some cases, 6 feet out. So as long as the mini split itself isn't bigger than 4 feet,
Yeah.
which I can't imagine it is, it's like the size of a suitcase.
1,500 square feet, that type, yeah, you're gonna need 2 to 3 ton, yeah.
So, I'm sorry, you're saying that these
Yes, you're
are
right.
projecting 4 feet?
In this
This
direction.
is 10 inches. Oh, so they'll be long ways.
Correct.
Yeah.
So 4
I mean,
feet back that
perpendicular
way.
to the building?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I mean.
Let's just put it this way, they fit.
Along the side of the post.
Not
Yeah.
sticking out past, but
How far does that post come out?
It's
The
about,
tabby post that you have shown there?
at minimum 4 feet, depending where you are in the building.
Because we don't, I mean, we can't see the depth on this drawing, is what I was asking.
Yeah.
So,
I thought you meant the bollard when you said post.
No. I thought the bollard was the outdoor unit, so thanks
No.
for clarifying.
Yep.
my question was the service yard, it's on the right elevation on building A, elevation A 2.1?
Let's go that way.
It wasn't on the plan, but I saw it on the elevation.
A 2.1
Yeah,
for building AB.
it just says building A elevation,
You just passed it.
I did.
right there, the middle, right, that one, that, right there. Where is that?
That is on the road as you come in from 170 by the gate.
But, so it needs to be shown on the plan.
Oh.
And incorporated with your landscape.
It's on the one I have in my hand, I can tell you that much.
Well, I'm just,
Yeah.
I mean, it may be there, I just can't see. I was just asking.
Also, that would be in this whole area.
Yeah, he's gonna have to update his landscape plan.
What's that?
But it's behind the stair tower. You have the meter banks, you have the disconnect, and you have the generator. So what you just saw on A 2.1, the service yard,
Yeah,
that's what it's hiding.
so it's on the plan or it's not on the plan? Because I don't see it on the plan.
If it's not on the plan, we will make sure it would be on the plan when we coordinate
Okay,
with
that's
staff.
what I'm just getting at, is it there, or is it not there? Okay, so it needs to be on the plan because it's really, it's gonna be
Correct.
there. Is there any other ones like that anywhere else that we're not seeing on the plan?
Site plan's probably the first one, right?
Or maybe just do a really quick, like, here's the service yards, or, you know, on the plan, just to make sure we're all on the same
The
page.
one I brought, I actually changed the color so you could, it would pop.
Oh, it's just hard because we have people outside of here that can't see that.
You're talking about, I'm here and I can't see it.
Yeah, so you can see in the clubhouse, it's the same scenario
Okay,
right here. You're gonna have the same scenario here, which
Okay.
is essentially the same as this.
you can work with staff on putting that in the correct location.
And E is the only one that's on the road as well. And D and C are internal.
Are there generators for all units or just the clubhouse?
The clubhouse is definitely gonna have a generator. A, B, we don't know. Right now, we're calling it a future generator.
Where would that be located?
That would be,
AB's on top, right?
it'd be right here. So the meter bank and the generator would be very similar to what you see across the road at the clubhouse. and it would be located right here.
And 170 is towards the top,
Correct.
so that'll be enclosed, fenced around?
Correct. So you don't see these ugly boxes on the side of the building. Plus, all the utilities basically come down this road and go this way. So to place everything on the opposite end just is very cost prohibitive. And quite honestly, you can't even put them on this side because we're touching the setback line on this side.
Just a comment, I wish the plans that we're looking at and we reviewed at home were the plans that are essentially what you want, but, because it's hard to visualize everything you're saying and at this point.
So now that we've talked about service yards, go to the next item.
And I think the only other comment was about the Cope and Blue. Sure.
You were gonna revise the parapet, you're good with that, and
Yeah, the parapets have already been revised.
And relocate
and
them, and we're
the color is gonna have to get reselected.
okay,
For now, I picked sea salt only because it's on my house, which is in the historic district, so I assumed it would.
Regulate paint color in the historic district.
Have to
exactly.
just check the light reflective value, that's all.
Okay, you two.
You should have been on the phone.
Is there anything else you wanna address?
I don't believe so, unless you have any questions.
Okay, well then I will open it up and see who has questions or who wants to start with questions. Linda, would you like to go first, or Rich? I'm always looking this way, so. Rich, do you have any other questions?
I'm struggling with the view on 170.
What-
And it's just same size windows, same spacing. And yes, I know we're gonna have a berm and some buffer, but all I can remember is when they first built that storage unit with the red roofs on Bluffton Parkway, they planted the required, 4-inch caliper bushes and low things. And now, 5 or 6 years later, it's starting to look okay. So this wonderful picture is wonderful, but we're not gonna see that for 5 or 6 years, minimum. By the time the minimum trees that you're required to plant are gonna grow to any amount that's gonna cover some of the, I will say, school building type of windows. I'm surprised that with such an upscale place, and the front size of these look great, but there was no variation in the size of the windows or shape of the windows. It's just the same, looks like 36 by 48 windows the whole way across. And I'm sure there's probably regulations that say you can do this. I'm not crazy about it. What can I say?
My wife called it a prison.
Well, I won't say that. I'm just saying that
Given I love everything
haven't-
with that wall.
Do you have an objection to maybe differentiating, like the windows, not, so they're not all, the same, like, maybe it's again.
Are we
the
talking
two-
building AB?
one that's facing 170.
The one that's facing
I mean, this one right here.
Seeing as we're there, let me make a couple of suggestions. AB just has such mass and scale, with it being such a big building, that when you put I think what we're realizing here is when you put two things on here, the symmetry of the building, so you have the variation, you got it, sticking out, and some have peaks and some are flat, but it's very symmetrical. And then you put the sameness of the windows all the way across, it looks like an institutional building. Looks like a school or my wife said it, a jail or something like that. I think Amanda and I were talking about this at one point too, and if you could, I guess the best way to put it, the CareCore building, EvaCore now. It's a big building. It looks like multiple buildings though, so when you drive by it, you're not thinking it's this huge, massive building. What did they do? They put different elements in, they put different size windows in, and that's kind of like what Rich said on the other side of your buildings here. You've got variation. You've got a variation with balconies and with sliding doors and smaller windows and roll-up doors. And know it's not what y'all are wanting to hear, but we're trying to avoid another industrial-looking building on 170.
Yeah, and if I may, are the number of windows a requirement? Because if I think of the typical car guy, which I'm a car guy too, yeah, sure you want lighting for when you're showing your cars and you got friends coming over, but you got great light coming in from the other side, and I'm sure the interior is gonna have some great, artificial lighting elements. So why the number of windows and the symmetry of all these windows on this side? What's driving that from a user standpoint or an owner standpoint? Why did they want that many windows?
Well, you're certainly not going to approve just all walls with nothing.
Agree.
Nothing. So basically, the windows are there to break up the massing of the walls.
But could they be ganged up like doubles versus every single, like, maybe one of them is all the singles and the next one you gang up some, I mean, can they be
I'd be willing to do
different
that.
configurations, I guess?
I'd be
and
willing
work
to
with
do that
staff?
as long as we can work with staff on that.
I think, and I don't know how this planning commission feels, I think that's an acceptable thing if we have it come back before DRC. Not necessarily planning commission, but just input of DRC. Because this is, and that wouldn't necessarily slow you down if we're thinking of a speed issue. The time requirements and everything for getting back here might,
I'd be
but I don't know
perfectly
how
okay with
the
that.
rest of the commission feels about that.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I think if we can give him good direction on, good guidance on what it is exactly we're talking about, things like the windows. Is there anything else that people have feelings about that we can tell him what it is we're having an issue with?
Does the rest of the commission know what I'm talking about with the Eva Corps building or the old Care Corps building right next to the jail? How it's even got different colors and textures and materials and different windows and a turret and part. I'm not saying any or all of those elements need to happen, but it breaks it up. The design, I think the majority of commission, if not all, are saying we like the design overall. It's just that one huge, and you've made changes to it.
Mm-hmm.
Which are much better, thank you.
Totally agree.
Leah?
Agreed. I think in relooking at that too, it would help to have some either consistency or intentional deviation from consistent head heights, like the stair or the car lift section. Some of the windows there seem to be taller than the ones and some are lower. They don't necessarily seem to relate to the floor line. And some of those windows on the first floor level seem very high in the wall.
If I may, on the elevator center that you're talking about, there are no floors where that is.
So
That's
then
just a complete 3-story element.
Then I think that's great because it opens you up to be able to adjust things where they need to be. I'm just struggling with the window heads. I think part of it being it looks like it's at least over 11 and a half feet, based on some of the datum lines that are coming, which just the human scale, which I know we mentioned before, it just doesn't feel like it's very tall. It's just a very tall first floor to have the windows there. So I think a combination of increasing some window sizes, ganging some together, trying to give each mass like a clear sense of hierarchy where the further you go up, the smaller the fenestration would be helpful, because it really does, and I don't think this is the first time we're seeing composite elevations, but it is tremendously long and repetitive. And I would also ask if we could get the front door on the 170 elevation into that elevator to not look like a service door, since it is highway corridor facing.
If we could build upon that, I'd like Dan to talk about the berm that's in front of the building and how much of the building that berm is going to cover.
We could probably flip to the landscape plan.
I know you're going to the berm. Is there a purpose to the berm? Is it a drainage issue or is it
The berm's existing. The berm is existing.
Okay.
So right now, you have 170, then there's a bike path, and the berm's anywhere from 10 to 15 feet above grade, or even more above that. we don't. The elevations go from 15 to 23, 25. So it's an 8 to 10 foot tall berm. So as far as the elevations of the building from 170, that lower level will be especially out of view with the berm and the existing landscape that's there, the pine trees that are there on the face of the berm. We're not disturbing any of that. But if you look at really the top of the lower floor, the top of those windows will be covered by that berm. Can you pull up the landscape plan? That might be helpful.
This,
502. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. So there you can see, how far is the mouse? Right here, that's the low point of the berm. This is the high point. So these are the contour lines. That's roughly 8 to 10 feet of elevation change. That's existing. So this side going down the hill is all existing to remain. So we're up, so that starts here and goes all the way down the face of that building. So that
All existing vegetation.
that's existing
You're not even gonna see it.
pines and wax myrtles and.
How tall is the building? 40?
No, I don't have anything, I don't believe that's 40 feet.
43.
It's the top of the parapet, yeah.
So I just wanted to point that out as far as that lower level in terms of like the doors and surface, and that's going to be out of view. And we can certainly look at some of these buffering on some of the ends here, but that's going to be well out of view with what exists today.
Sorry, I have a question on, the front elevations for, can you pull those up or somebody on here?
2.1.
2.1 and 2.2.
They're not labeled like that.
I just realized this and I was looking at it when Lydia was talking about the window heights. Are they at two different window heights? Like, are your levels, your lines, your guidelines in the wrong spots? What am I missing here?
6 more slides.
Here's 2.1.
Different 2.1. You give me 2.1s correct?
Yeah, it's the A, so the building B,
Here we go, B.
okay, so if you look at the guidelines on those, like your bottom windows, they're set down at 9 feet.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go to the building A, 2.1, whatever that is, I don't know if it was previous, look at your guidelines, they're not the same spot, and your windows are higher.
So on this front elevation, you don't have a floor in the way.
But wouldn't your windows sit at the same height? If it's all in the same plane? I mean, it's AB, right? And we're looking at the road. Do you see what I'm saying? Am I crazy?
Well, here's your composite. All these windows align with each other.
Yeah.
Okay, but not on our drawings.
Oh, yeah.
That is not right. That is not aligned with anything. I think maybe that's where I'm getting confused, is because that one looks really tall. Is that what you were looking at? And you were saying it looked really tall?
There's one where it's measured above 11.6, and then there's one where
Yeah.
it's measured at 9, but they're supposedly all at the same height. So
Exactly, in the
it's
same, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so it's a little bit confusing what it's supposed to be. I just noticed it when I was like, wait a minute. Like something just didn't, so the composite looks right? But it's just,
Is this building?
That would be B.
The composite is much better than the one on A2.1, which is very, very tall.
And then this one is doing well. These windows are.
But you don't see them at the same time, so.
You do.
yeah, they're on the
This is
street,
continuation of that building.
but they're all on the highway corridor.
Your lines.
Oh, okay.
Is what I think
I
it
thought
is.
she was talking front and back.
No,
No,
so see front elevation of A, I
Yeah.
want to say,
Yep.
running along the top, now scroll down. Down. So front elevation, B, line is sitting well above it, because that was the middle line.
That's weird. It's
Right.
correct there.
You've got,
That's weird, yeah.
that is,
Yeah.
Okay, so
Well, that's, we don't have.
can we have that conversation again then about windows so that we can make sure we're talking about the same thing? Okay, Lydia, so
top of your paragraph.
My objection is to the windows as shown on 1A 2.1 where they appear to be at over 11 and a half feet head height. I am comfortable with the head height where they are shown at 9. The composite appears to show them all at 9 possibly, or closer to 9, where the windowsill is much closer to the water table.
Yeah.
I think that's a much better proportion for that level of windows than being almost an equal window in between the water table and the windowsill of that
Correct.
above. I think the rest of the, hierarchy of window sizes where the first floor windows are taller and larger, and then the arrangement of them to not just be a series of punched openings would be helpful, but if, yes, the composite and I guess, 2.2 are a nicer look than 2.1.
Katie, did you have an objection?
2.2 is the B side, which is the lower set of windows on the two.
Which is the correct one.
Okay.
It's the A one that's why none of them, okay, I was sketching and I'm like, how does that doesn't work like that.
So
Now I got it.
from a layman's perspective, we need to, sorry, was that bad? I didn't-
Oh, you're a layman, go ahead.
Yeah.
Layperson.
We need it to not look like one big, massive building with a couple of changes. And whether that looks like, different materials, whether it's different size windows or fake balconies or real balconies or something. You did a great job on the other elements. It's just that one that we seem to be hanging up on.
And even if it's taking like some of those bracketed roofs and maybe it was at a different level, like the second level versus the very top level or something, or changing it up, I don't
Maybe
know.
those alternate as they go. Maybe
Maybe,
like you said,
Yeah,
like it goes.
I mean, but I don't know if I
second,
go
first.
up, down, up, down, up, down,
Yeah.
but some kind of something
A color or material change between the segments
that'll help.
will help as well. And again, I refer back to CareCore just because that's the one example that keeps popping in my head.
I mean, one idea is to keep the windows as they are, but just change materials, maybe move some of the awnings. That could be an option.
Yeah,
I
I
agree
would-
with Lydia, maybe with some hierarchy,
Yeah.
5 foot, 4 foot, 3 foot, or something to that nature.
Because, yeah, if you change where the bracketed roofs are, then it's not like it's crammed in between the two either. It gives a little more relief
Mhm.
from those gables, so.
Just for my side of the record, I would be comfortable if the windows stayed as they are and we just moved bracketed roofs or changed colors.
The only thing I'm concerned about is not visually having those windows draw you to them, even if they're variations. And I think it can be done architecturally, but it's just, the way you look at it now, you see those windows because they're all lined up. And so if the windows stay all lined up, I don't know if that'll still exist or not.
Well, I think ganging some of them up to doubles or triples, I mean, whatever it might be, in different elements, as long as there's some type of,
Difference, yeah.
design element.
We're not trying to design it for you, we're just trying to give you a feel for.
Just, we don't want the repetitive windows, all the same size.
Commissioner Denmark, I would agree with Commissioner DePaul. I would not be comfortable with this. And quite frankly, I'm, with the number of, I guess, things that are not on this drawing, I'm not as comfortable with this just going to staff and never seeing it again, but.
Are you
but I
comfortable with it
wouldn't-
going
but-
to
but-
DRC?
But I wouldn't hold it up from this standpoint. If it will be looked at DRC, that's good. But sitting here right now, if you have to ask me, I would say no.
So,
Yeah, and that's why I suggested DRC, because 3 planning commission members can come and
Understand.
concur.
Understand?
is everybody comfortable with that? Edie, we can do that? Make that,
Yeah.
okay. All right,
I mean, it would be approved at a staff level with DRC oversight.
okay. Everybody go with that?
Hmm?
Okay. So with that, does anyone want to make,
Before you make a motion, can you, so that the motion is not messy,
you want to?
can we just give a brief summary of the items that you want to add, and so I can
Yeah,
have a vague idea? Because we've talked about a lot of different elements.
I can always remove it if it doesn't happen, but just so, what I'm thinking is, I move that we
The move just think.
Well, I can always pull it back.
No, no, let's
Because
not-
I don't want to say it twice.
You can just say moved as previously stated if you're
Okay.
good, but.
let's not move it.
So basically, approve with staff recommendations as stated in the report, with the additional conditions that it address the mass and scaling of building AB on the Highway 170 elevation to vary materials and/or window sizing and/or placement to avoid symmetry in the large length of the building, something to that effect. And we can reference, oh gosh, what is it?
Determination.
3.17.3.5, I believe is the reference. No, that's the elimination, that's not.
No, I know, but I just want
Oh.
to make sure that's, because we have to.
Oh, and then add that, I'm sorry,
That's why we're not
I thought it was
moving
that
anything
other.
right now.
Yeah. And then we have to determine that, I got it.
514.3,
Yeah, that was this page.
3A1.
A1, yeah.
Okay, and what was the other item?
We have to determine the
Number 5 on your list.
Okay, with the determination on the lighting
Yes.
Can I propose?
in favor?
Yes.
I would like to propose that we use the word monotony instead of symmetry, because I don't think the issue is that it's symmetrical, it's that it's just monotonous, and somehow get in a clear sense of hierarchy that breaks down the scale or something to that effect.
Okay.
As long as it doesn't offend the architect.
Okay.
You okay with monotony? No.
Commissioner Wetmore, do we have to say something about the DRC review, or is that implied?
I will,
I meant to put that on there, and that's one of the conditions.
that's why we're not making a motion yet, because we're talking about it for a moment.
Right.
Okay, so the only thing that is being added beyond what was included in the staff report is that the mass and scale of building AB on the 170 elevation is to add variety in materials and window sizing to avoid monotony or to avoid monotony in the length of the building to be reviewed or to be approved at staff level with DRC review. Is that my understanding?
After DRC review.
Correct. Okay,
And then we need to address the,
The deviation.
and you were in favor of allowing the deviation as submitted? Okay.
Sorry. Not the right.
Kevin, if you don't mind, after the meeting, I'd like to look at the plans real quick.
I'm shouting at everybody, Katie.
Can you make the print bigger?
So you don't have to use your reading glasses.
It's gonna be 3 pages long, this.
I capitalized it for you.
You're doing a great job, Katie.
That means you have to make the motion. You gotta
Memorize what was.
70 elevation of AB be revised as.
Yeah, it's the only thing not capital.
Stop picking on Katie. She's working hard.
On the spot, I couldn't.
Hey, it took Katie being here for 7 years before I didn't call her new girl.
We are being videotaped.
Be respectful. Just
They know I'd do anything for them. Even though they didn't invite us to their taco day. Commission, I think we should have.
I can't spell that word.
Only 3 of us.
Tell you what, we'll do it at my house. We'll walk over to Agave when they open.
And then we'll just rotate at your house.
But it's only planning commission, not staff, because they didn't invite us to theirs.
Am I close? Okay, before you make a motion, if you wanted to ask if they had any other items to add,
Can you shrink the font on this? So we can see it all?
I write your motion for you, or I help you write the motion, and you still have concerns.
That's a little too small.
Guess who was making the motion?
Thank you.
I think this covers
Condition
all of the things. Does this cover your concerns?
Yes, that's number one, and then number two would be,
I'm sorry, it's okay.
to be submitted to review by DRC for staff approval. Orge?
Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Oh, well, thank you.
To approve the, per staff recommendations 110, allowing the deviation from the lighting to be approved as submitted. And the condition that the mass and scale of the 170 elevation of building AB be revised through material changes in window sizes to avoid monotonous patterns, which appear along per section 5.14.3.A.1, to be approved by staff after DRC review.
I have a second.
Second.
Do I have any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We're good. Thank you. Thanks for waiting this out with us. Okay, it is 7:26. Is there any further discussion from anyone? No? Do I have a motion? All in favor? Aye.
Okay, now the meeting is adjourned, but the mics are still live.
Oh, you got 6:30. I did 7.
I got it.
You got it.
Without going over.
So,